Praise the Lord. Good morning. I am Pastor Michelle, along with my husband, Pastor Waylon Gibson, Reach Church of Columbia. We greet you in the name of Jesus. We pray that you have been having a blessed and wonderful day. The rain was early this morning and kind of was a little flash flooding, so we're thankful that the sun is shining and that God is still reigning and He's still on the throne and He's still so magnificent and marvelous in our lives. Even when we don't feel like we're worthy of God's grace and His mercy, He still yet sent His Son to die for us and to redeem us back. He made sure He made provision for His people. That's the greatest thing. When God makes provision for His people, all other things can fail, but God never fails. He never gives up, and He never runs out on us. I want to thank God for last night. I didn't really advertise it, but because I only wanted it to be personal setting, intimate and personal, but I thank the ladies that showed up last night for our paint and chat, and it was an awesome time. Sometimes you have to do something different than the norm, and always just being churchy and closing people in is not what God wants us to be. I had an awesome time. I enjoyed the ladies. I enjoyed Dr. Alexandria Smith and the profound painter Najee Reese.
Yes.
Najee helped us to see abstractly, and we were all like, everybody was like confused because we didn't know what to do. But like she said, follow my instructions, and you will come out with a great product. And everybody was kind of looking around like, I'm not here, I can't follow her like that. And then someone was like, I ain't even gonna do the picture. And she was like, it ain't hard, just listen to my instructions. If you follow the instructions, you're gonna get a great product.
Sound like church folk.
Yeah, yeah, they don't want to follow directions. But guess what? It was so awesome, y'all, because she made it simple that my daughter was trying to follow, but when she can't do it the way she wants to do it, she gets frustrated, and then she kind of zones out on us. So, but I'm thankful because it was like everybody, you have to see how these pictures turn out because everybody saw their picture differently, or they did their painting different. And the thing that got me, y'all, was everybody had so much imagination, so much creative juices flowing. You want to show that picture? This is what the painter did.
I'm joking. I got good in Frankfurt.
Yeah, this is what the painter did, and this is where the top ribbon is where you're going. Is what God is going to take. The bottom picture is where you're feeling.
The bottom word. The word on the bottom.
The word on the bottom
shows,
or the ribbon shows your stronghold.
Right, or your issue that you're dealing with.
And on the top is going to show you the answer.
Yeah, the answer, or as I'm looking at it, what God says. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways. When we feel unworthy, we have to understand that we have to get over our feelings. And I love the example of the picture of the bird that's with it, because it looks like a dove to me. And if I want to be super deep,
a phoenix.
Well, Phoenix is a negative kind of bird connotation. Eagle is more like it. Mainly because the Phoenix talks about rising from the ashes, and many people in the spiritual world use that as their symbol, which goes into a whole lot of other crazy stuff. But with this picture, I love the fact that God gives us His grace. The Bible says, where sin abounds, grace much more abounds. And so you have to understand that You may be feeling about yourself one way, and God says the way you feel about yourself, that when it does not line up with His word, is irrelevant. You have to have His thought and what He says and how He feels about us. That has to become our reality. And the truth of the matter is, most of us, just like you said at the beginning, we won't follow instructions because we go, I'm not, I'm this, I'm that. And in most cases, when God wants to do something different with you and get you out of your comfort zone and says, okay, let me show you what's in you, we give all those excuses. We give all of those, I can't, I won't, I just quit. And even with Monet, she does this often, and it's I'm still working, but we're still working to coach her. Just because it doesn't come out the way you first envisioned it, still don't throw away or don't discard your creation, because in many cases, this is what I learned from music. What I have in my head won't come out until I get all the other stuff out of the way. I look at what I've created. It doesn't quite sound like what I had envisioned in my head, but what is it? I don't discard it, throw it away. That's good for something. I may be able to use a chord from that. I may be able to use the same key. I may be able to use the chorus from the song that I created, even with Monet. I'm coaching with her and saying she'll draw something, and now I'm saying, okay, let's frame it, or let's post it in the room. Let's put it up somewhere so you can see it. Even though it's not what you designed, it wasn't what you think is your best, it is part of your progress. And if you track your progress and keep painting, you keep drawing, you keep creating, you will get to what you ultimately envision. Oftentimes, there are certain lessons or skills and techniques you need to gather and learn so that you can differentiate between doing it with a paintbrush or what they call blotting. Blotting is a different process. Certain things are different. So when you start to learn the different techniques, then what you ultimately have envisioned can come to pass. God will often show us the other skill set that we have, the other things that's in us, so that when we bring it forth, finally, it comes to pass. It's wonderful. And we have the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom. I always say knowledge, understanding, and experience, and then the wisdom behind what we've done, because now I can show you how to get to where you need to be. And I think that's what Najee was trying to do with you guys last night, for what I heard, because I wasn't there. But I'm going to share this as well. But it's the fact that she's trying to get you to trust the process.
Trust the process.
Don't trust that it's got to immediately look like what you want. Trust the process.
Because construction starts out looking like a total wreck and chaos. But in the end, it's a beautiful building. Whereas this person, they put up, I can't see, fear of failure. And then they said that they're going to have courage. We encourage them to, and see how much different her painting looks than Najee, because that's what's in her mind. That's her creative juices and her creative flow. And we wanted them to put it up in their home or in their bedroom. And then when you start feeling like you fear of being a failure, you can look at your picture and say, I have the courage to move on. I have the courage. I'm more than a conqueror. I don't have to be a failure. And see, Satan always tries to make you feel like God don't love you, God don't hear you, God don't want you, because all the bad things that happen in your life. And you know that's a lie from the pit of hell. Because God would not allow you to go through these things and He not have your back, or He not cover you and have a greater plan for you. And so I just love the awesomeness, because we had a variety of people. I had some customers that showed up. I had some families that showed up. I had some, just comrades that showed up. And I didn't want to do it big, because I didn't want somebody to get lost in the sauce, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And so I'm grateful, because some of us walked away with clarity and understanding. And someone put up on their picture, they was like, I overextend myself for others.
And that is not good. Because we got to let the Lord use you. Yes, but that's also not good. You have to realize the limitations of your resources. You have to, because that way you put yourself in a position to be sustaining success, to have sustaining success. You put yourself in a position to where you can not just be a blessing to someone else, but you become an asset to yourself, and you're not helping people to your detriment. Because one person once said, the best thing you can do to help someone that's broke is not be one. If you're broke and they're broke, you're incredibly limited in what you can do. And it's not always about being broke. Talking with someone last night, sometimes it's just the fact that stuff happens, and when you have a certain number of resources, like your finances, kind of your finances. Some of us, our jobs don't allow us to do anything different because the job requires so much time, so many hours, and I'm already making a certain amount. And what I've often told people is, I want people to get out of their head. If I can be a millionaire or make six figures, I can be out of debt. No. Oftentimes, people who are making six figures and multimillionaires, billionaires, and, well, I'm going to go into that, are still in debt because they owe more than what they bring in on a monthly basis. If you are making $2 million a month, but yet your bills are $3 million a month, you are still broke. Yeah. And that is just what the issue becomes for many of us. It is not always the amount of money we make. It is how we handle what we make. It is how we navigate and spend and the expenses we have versus what we make. There comes a point and a threshold where when I coach students and coach young people on finances, I go, where do you want to live? What kind of car you want to drive? How do you want to live? Now let's factor all of that together. So this is how much it's going to cost you to live the way you want. Because some people go, well, I just make this amount and I need some help. Oh, okay, wait a minute. How is it that because that to me has always been the missing component. If I make six figures, but I want to live like, if I want to live in an apartment and be on Section 8 housing, which you can't be on Section 8 making six figures, but y'all hear what I'm saying. If my mentality is that of, I don't want no bills, I don't want to spend more than $2,500 a month for all my expenses, then you making six figures, it's not a problem. Because you're going to have way more to spend and to do with than what your expenses are. The issue becomes is when we want the six-figure lifestyle, but we're on Section 8 housing. And that's not a diss to anybody, that's just a fact of the matter. I have to then look to say, okay, how do I need to maneuver and switch so that I can work myself, I can do some things differently. Maybe I have to consider switching careers and getting a better career, or getting a better job, so that I can live the way I envision myself living. And then this is where I go, you also would then want to bring in, if you do it on your own, you do it on your own. But if you partner with God in this, then you're going to have to make some concessions. You may have to realize that his plan for getting you to the way you say you want to live may not, he may have you renegotiate that. He may have you renegotiate how you see yourself living. He may have you renegotiate where you see yourself working. It may be different, but if you're going to partner with God, we're going to take what? His thoughts for our life, his vision for our life, his desire that we have life and have it more abundantly. God will do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think, according to the power that's working in us. So it's going to be the power of God working in us that's going to cause what we're believing God for above all we can ask or think. So God will begin to reveal to you, oh, you want to live in the nice condo over here on this side of town, but I got 10 acres and a house for you. He may say that to you, or he may say, you want the 10 acres and a house, but I really got this nice condo for you because of what I'm going to have you doing and the fact that you're going to be in a certain position in life. You're going to own other properties, but you're going to live here and rent out to others, and that's going to take care of you. God sometimes will do things differently than how we're thinking, because his thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. When we put God in a box, say he's going to do just what I asked him to do, I go, are you sure?
And the great thing about last night was, if you followed the instructions, and it didn't look like she thought, she would come and help. She would come and show you, put your wings out a little more, a little different. And we also had the counselor. The counselor was able to talk through some of the women's issues to help them even find the way to put what their stronghold was, and to put what their answer was.
So you're saying that sometimes it's hard to even identify what our issue may actually be, or issues.
Because sometimes we don't think we have issues. Sometimes we think we're okay, and we're thinking that everybody else is okay with who we are, and the way, like when you overextend yourself, most people feel like, I'm going to call her, she's going to do whatever it is I want her to do, she's never going to say no. And so the person said, her answer was no. Her stronghold was overextending myself for people. But no meant learning how to say no. Learning how to self-preserve myself. Not always trying to please everybody else when I unplease myself. And because everybody thinks, and she started off by saying, most women think they're superwoman. Most women think that, everybody think a woman in the family does everything, and she can't do everything. She has many heads, she has many hands, and so therefore she's going to do it. And sometimes we just don't have the energy, the power, or the strength to do for others, because we're fighting battles within ourselves.
Right.
And we're fighting battles. Sometimes we're fighting battles with our health. Sometimes we're fighting battles with our money. Sometimes we're fighting battles with our mate, our children, our sisters, our things and stuff like that. And so you can't be to everybody. You have to learn. There are some things I just I can't do it. I'm unable to do it. And then we had one person gave a great testimony. She was talking about, one lady was saying her son needs to talk to her, and another lady was able to give her some advice. She was like, let it go. Let it play itself out, because you know what? Your children are always going to need you as well as you're going to need them. She said, me and my daughter had a confrontation, and I told my daughter to get out of my house, and she said, she said, my daughter said, I said, and never come back. But that's not what I meant. I meant just get out right now so that the situation can calm down. And she was like, I didn't call her. I didn't worry about her. She took her kids. She left. And she went on her way. And she was like, nah, she's sleeping on my couch. I can't get rid of her. She was like, it went a whole month or two. And I didn't run after her. And I didn't chase after her this time. And now I can't get rid of her. She said, I never meant to say don't come back. She said, I just meant to get out at the moment. She said, but she took it to heart. And she said, God had to bring me to that place of stop overextending. Stop making myself be something for everybody else. When it comes to me, nobody sees my hurt. Nobody sees my pain. Nobody reaches out and says, you're hurting. And we had one that she could not figure out what to put up. She couldn't figure out what her stronghold was. She couldn't figure out what her strength was. But it was an anniversary mark yesterday. It was her mother's birthday, who was going on to be with the Lord. So it hit me this morning. That's why she couldn't figure out what to put down, because her mind was so caught up on. And then we had some women, we was able to talk about grief. And the council was able to share about she was going through grief and a divorce at the same time, and how she was disconnected. And she didn't realize how disconnected she was. And she was like, you know, I had to come to reality. Sometimes we have to come to reality of ourselves, that we are not who we say we are. The persona we put out to the world sometimes is like, we put out, I'm big, bad, and bold, but when you go home, you're weak and you're tired, you're scared, you're afraid.
Right. And sometimes the world labels us a certain way because of the various positions and titles we may hold. You have to understand that the world doesn't always see people in a negative light in everything. There's someone looking at you going, man, they must have it all together, because they look at you and what you have accomplished, these successes you have, and they're looking at you like you got it better. They may look at you and go for me for a long season, the person that still had their mother around to me was the better person. And I had a friend who he messaged me one time talking about his mama, and she does this, she that, bro, and she good to my nerve. And I'm like, you're not gonna get no sympathy from me because my man, she cursed me out. It's like, I wish, and my mother didn't curse, but I wish I could be in your position to have my mother curse me out one more time. And it's just whatever. In that moment, even as all that he was going through and how horrible he said it was, I'm like, but you can see her. She's talking to you. There's life between the two of you. I have to talk. As I told people, I was trying to talk through God to my mother. And I was like, let her rest, leave her alone. So I so long for just be able to hear her, talk to her again. It was a grief thing for me, and I had to learn to let God heal me and go through process. And so some of my process was going and talking to someone. The counselor, that was yesterday. That's who I would go and talk to and just share stuff with. Like, look, I'm feeling like this, and the third. And she would kind of talk with me and work through some things. Also, in addition to that, I was praying and talking to God. Also, in addition to that, I was looking up different documentaries on grief and things like that. And then hearing what different people were doing as far as like balloon release and things like that for grief's sake. And then I began to kind of just look at some things about my life and say, okay, and learning to embrace moments and going back and remembering and talking about your loved one, not acting like you can't talk about them. It's what you do. So now when I experience other people going through their grief, I had an uncle who said, he was talking about his wife, and he was like, and it's almost like somebody looked at him kind of strange, like, why are you talking about this? And he's like, my counselor told me to talk about it, to get it out. I was like, yes. And I was like, yes, you should. You should talk about the things you remember, the good stuff, even sometimes the bad stuff. I was like, talk about it. The more you talk about it, it honors the person. It helps you heal. It helps you you don't hold it, so you're not holding the emotion of it. If our words are energy, this is something that scientists on the highest levels have learned, that life and the things in life, all this matter, anything that has mass takes up space, has frequency. That when you break it down, you analyze it, you get to the most microscopic levels you possibly can, you will see that all of these objects have a certain kind of frequency because everything has been spoken by a word. So when we hold things in and we hold memories and things like that in, we're holding in energy, and that energy that you hold can at some point in time become kind of toxic or become negative if you hold it in and let it sit too long. But by releasing and speaking and saying, you give life to it, but you also release it. And so here's the running joke that me and Shelly had this weekend. I gave away a table to make room for a new one. And some people say, you don't give away the old one until you get a new one. Not always. Sometimes many people have preached, you can't get married till you make room for your spouse. So you start to prepare yourself for what's getting ready to happen. A mother doesn't wait till she has the baby before she starts making preparations in the house for the baby to arrive. They call it nesting. So she starts looking at this is where the baby's going to be, and here's the room, this, and here's that, and this, and he goes through changes. So from a biblical standpoint, a instinctive, motherly, fatherly nature standpoint, you sometimes have to start making room for what you're getting ready to get. So I can't heal until I get out the toxins. I can't heal until I begin to address the wounds. Talking about what I've gone through can help me in my healing process, and it is what it is. Till you come to the place where what happens? You don't talk about it all the time. Or when you do talk about it, like for me, I went so long not talking about it till once I was healing and someone mentioned their mother, so I mentioned my mother, I would cry just talking to them about my mama. And they'd be like, "You okay? I'm sorry." I said, No. This is good for me. I was like, I'm not sad. I never wanted to be sad thinking about someone that I love. God turned my tears of sorrow into tears of joy. I don't mind the tears. I don't mind the crying. I just don't want to go into depression over it. I don't want my life to stop and fall apart because I'm so caught up in an ungodly grief that I am no good to anybody, and I'm attacking the people that love me, and I'm feeling like I'm all by myself. I am alone when all these people, if something happened to me or if I took my life, would be devastated at what happens to me because they love me and I'm not properly discerning the love that is right here. And so but grief makes you feel like I ain't got nobody. That one person that has left was everything to me. And even if your mother, your parent your child was and is everything to you, they were the first, they were the this, they were the that. There'll never be another of them. I always tell God, help me to live so that when I am done and I finish my course, I can be reunited. That becomes a part of the goal of salvation. They're the Lord, I love the Lord. If I wasn't sure if they love the Lord, then let me at least make it there so I can see. Because it would be a shame for them to have made it, for them to have gotten right with the Lord in their time of trouble. They called on God, and God delivered them and saved them like the thief on the cross. And here me and my bitterness miss heaven.
And mother, last night we had a mother here, and she began to share with us, "You want to see your loved ones again?" She was like, "Yeah, they're going on to be with the Lord." And she was like, "You got to live your life." And her wisdom flowed from her heavily. She was just trying to, she was sharing with us her experiences. And sometimes when we was in a room full of people, and we had at least 5 people or 6 people say, "I'm lonely." Mm-hmm. I'm in a room full of people, but I'm still yet lonely. I feel alone. I feel like because people don't reach out to me, I stay home, and I don't want to be around people because I'm going through so many things, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. So I kind of stay to myself, and I was like, you really don't like being by yourself, but you gotten used to it.
Now, that is the dysfunction of walls and isolating yourself. I don't want, and you start to push away from the thing you want the most. As praise the Lord, my name is Brother Waylon. My name is Waylon Gibson, and I used to suffer from a severe root of rejection. When you suffer from rejection, you push love away, but it's the same thing deep down that you want. But because you have bought into the lie that you're not worthy of it, because don't nobody love me, don't nobody care about me, this or whatever, they don't want to be around me, whatever, you push it away. And when people who genuinely love you try to come and hug on you, you get angry and mad and push them away because you don't want them to see that you really feel about yourself as if you're less than. Yeah. Praise the Lord, everybody.
And that's how a lot of people feel. We do feel like we're not worthy of, like she said, unworthy. Because, you could be a young parent that had a son or a daughter, and, the church world,
not all.
The other world, the world we live in, people look at you differently. Yeah. If you had a child at 14 or 16, 17, they're looking at you, and you feel as though when you don't get over that, having a child before marriage, and people start saying, "Well, what was wrong with you that you had a baby?" You had a baby at that young age. You was a fast tail girl.
It's not always that you trusted somebody to do some stuff because you thought you.
And nobody wants to hear that.
Right. And in some cases, sadly, in many cases, we have had the wrong approach when it comes to things like that. In many cases, not in every single one, but in many cases that people will testify about, the church has had the wrong approach. I'll be the first one to say it, because the person got caught up, and that's what it is. You get caught up, and now you're with child or whatever the case is, and instead of running to, rallying to, and saying, this child that you are having, first of all, is a blessing. One, God intended, not intended, because that's the wrong way to say it. Life comes from God. God has said certain things in the earth to take place. When a sperm hits an egg, it's going to produce. When the seed hits the ground and begins to die, it's going to transform, it's going to produce after its kind. That is just his principle in Genesis. He said, from this time forward, seed time and harvest, summer and winter, cold and heat, day and night, whatever, it's not going to stop. He sets it in motion and says, this is what it is. So sometimes, yes, the enemy will come in and try to make roughshod of the process of God and try to use God's principles to manipulate and to, what are you doing? Oh, that's fine. That ain't nothing. To try to manipulate and to try to control and use God's principles like gravity and lift and thrust and all the other laws of the world to use them against you. The law of seed time and harvest, the law of sowing and reaping, the law of offenses. He uses these things to our detriment in many cases. Whereas young ladies can start to ovulate and be physically able to produce a child at a very young teenage age. And then he manipulates that with some young man whose body is now producing sperm that is mature, that can produce if it gets with the egg. And then he starts the manipulation process to see how many can he try to get them off course from what God has determined for their life. God goes, because this is life and life comes from me and I've ordained it and sanctioned it. When life comes from me, there's purpose and plan for the child and the family. So God is looking to do some things. When you understand God's process, you can then say, how can we come alongside you, young lady, young man, and help y'all through this, be support for you, but at the same time tell you how this is premature. This is too early. You're going to have some tough stuff. We're going to walk with you with it. But this is what you're going to have to do. Now that you have tasted of this fruit and you know what it's like, you're going to have to now fight a new, different fight. We got to teach you how to fast and pray and abstain from worldly lust. And that if you feel like you can't abstain from worldly lust, I need you to start looking at this next one and say, what type of legacy do you want to leave to your children? Do you want them to also be going through what you're going through? Now let's support you in a different kind of way. Let's put some parameters. Let's start doing some coaching over the lifespan and help get you back focused on who you're going to be in life, who you want to be in life, and what do you have planned for your child? How do you want your child to be? We're going to support you, but now you got to start praying, and you know it's going to be a little bit different. So that I remember watching somebody's Instagram feed. They were 30 years old, 33 years old, finally graduating from college. Had their baby at about 15. Okay. And the baby, I think, either had graduated high school and was going to college, or some kind of way, or something was going on. Then you had some other people who were graduating college at the same time their child was graduating college, because they had them early and they didn't let things deter them. But they said, okay, you're going to school. The child convinced the parent, go back to school. Go to school with me. We'll do some of our classes together. We'll do whatever. And they were support for each other through that process. Life doesn't have to be how we framed it and what the enemy has planned for your life, because you got to understand there is a plan of Satan for your life. There is a plan of the enemy for your life. But let me give you a Bible on this. Jesus said, Peter, Satan has desired to have you and sift you as wheat. This was the plan for Peter from Satan. But Jesus said, I have prayed for you that your faith does not fail as the enemy tries you. Same thing God did with Job. Satan had a plan for Job that was not the plan of God for Job. Problem is, we go, Satan just did Job bad. No, God said, have you considered my servant Job? And then Satan says, man, Gerald's serving you for nothing. There's a hedge around him. I can't see him. I can't find him. So then God says, you can try him, but don't touch his soul. And in this process, God is going, I am going to settle this with you, Satan, once and for all. I'm going to get Job out of this situation and let him pass this test. He or she is ready. So when you're going through your Job seasons, your biblical reading and your faithfulness and your integrity counts. Because at the end of the day, watch this, Job went through all kind of emotional challenges. He said things that he did not understand. He said some stuff that he probably really didn't mean, in the sense that he's like, even today is my complaint bitter and this and the third, but the word will come out. But he knows the way that I take it. When he has tried me, I'll come forth the spiritual gold. If I can get myself to the face of God, I will plead my cause to him, and God will hear me. And because he loves me so much, kind of paraphrasing, he will turn my situation. He said, I look for him on the left, I could not perceive him. On the right hand where he does not, where he worked, I can't see him. He has hid himself from me. He's like, but he knows the way that I take. In other words, I'm going to stay steadfast in who I am. I'm going to be me. I ain't going to try to act like nobody different. He knows the way that I take. And after he has tried me, I'm going to come forth as pure gold. He's like, I'm going through a burning process, but I'm going to come out on the other end. He was prophesying he's like, I don't have all the answers, but I know God's not going to leave me like this. And so one songwriter said, life can be so cruel, but God has been too good to leave me like this, hurting and desperate on my own. You have to know that your Father loves you, and whatever either life has done to you, or sometimes what we have done to ourselves, or what loved ones has done to themselves that affects you, or what Satan has tried. I got like 4 categories. Wherever you find yourself in, know that God will not leave you the way you currently are. If you're hurting and desperate and lonely, he's not going to leave you like that. He will come unto you. He will lift you up. He will turn your captivity and remove your burden. And he'll say, come take my burden upon me. Take my burden upon you, for my yoke is easy and the burden is light. You gotta know and trust in the God that you serve, and do your due diligence to keep pressing forward and go the way of the Lord. The last thing he told me was, go to the other side. The storm is hitting. We rolling. Man, we ain't gonna get there. Well, he said meet him over there, so that's where we going. And Jesus comes walking on the water, and he would have passed them by. Why? Because he gave them word, go to the other side.
I hear the cry. I was like, but it's kind of taxing. And I would have to set up a committee, and everybody would kind of have to help me get, maneuver through it, because sometimes when you try to take on everything by yourself, it weighs you down. So I was like, we will have to get us a committee, and we'll have to try to make it happen. Even though every time you come together, it don't always have to be
food and paint and whatever.
And we could go to a restaurant and eat at the restaurant, but still have some ministry. What that mean?
I'm sorry. I just saw y'all saying that Ruth Chris. I'm like, oh Lord Jesus, the bill.
We did talk about it.
I'm sure. Because somebody went and had a wonderful time at Ruth Chris. However, that's wonderful. Yes, and more yes. In addition to those things, though, it's always ministry at the forefront, and it's like when you're hearing the cry of the people, say, okay, how can we meet the need? And I'm pretty sure God will begin to give the ideas and the stuff to say, okay, we're going to do this again. Sometimes you may have to put it on a schedule, say maybe not every month, maybe every 6 weeks, and then calendar it out and say these are our dates, or every other month, these are our dates, lock them in. And then in the midst of that, because this is what I'm thinking about with the men as well. We have a men's or women's fellowship, and we get some ministry, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till the next time. But in the meantime, we've exposed some things that sometimes the deliverance of it is immediate. Children of Israel, in one moment of season, come out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. They saw the great deliverance. And so, like Paul the Apostle said, they were baptized in the water through crossing the Red Sea. Right. there was the baptized, the salvation of the blood on the doorpost of the lamb, so that the death angel passes over. So they went through that, but then they got into the wilderness, and 11 days takes 40 years, because the moment the man of God that represented God was not to be seen visibly, they went back a whoring after other stuff. And so what often happens is we go somewhere, things get exposed, we get free, we get delivered, but because our minds have not changed, we end up creating or recreating the same stronghold that we just got delivered from.
Okay, so I wanted to peel back to something you were talking about earlier. I think in the midst of y'all talking about grief, I remember as a younger person watching mom and dad lose their parents, lose their mothers, and I always thought, I didn't realize until I got grown the different ways that grief affected my mom and my dad and their personalities and the way that they administer life until maybe, I want to say about 2 years ago. Because I was saying to them, but I still like to say this, I've learned now from watching them and being able to talk about grief in an open way, I've learned that death is not really as bad of a thing as you try to make it out to be. And it is, because I had a friend to pass away Tuesday, and I had talked to them Saturday night, and they told me, they was like, I'm going to die, that was cool. I was cool with that part. And I thought about it, I said, you know what, that is the purpose of us living. That is the purpose of it. That's what we live for. That's what we live. We live for Christ. We die for Christ. And I think a lot of the time we internalize people transitioning to the next point in life as something negative when it, as they in Christ, it's really never a negative. And that was the point I wanted to add on y'all was talking earlier.
Yeah.
And we knew both our mothers loved the Lord.
Right, yeah.
And they gave their life to Christ. And so it's easy, it's easy, but it's still yet hard to say, to remind yourself, my mama loved the Lord.
Yeah.
And my mom, when my mama passed and we was at the hospital, and I laid my head on the pole, and all I could say was, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. I said, and my mama died doing what she loved to do, because she was getting ready to sing. And she said, I can't breathe. And so they said she had been sitting around all day, wasn't feeling good. And I was like, nobody said anything, but I was like, God, that wasn't your plan. That wasn't your purpose. Even with Mom, we had went out of town. That was the first time we had left her. And we went on a couples retreat. And when we came back home, she was glowing. It was such a beauty. It was, I guess God was showing me, because everybody came in the house, they was like, you mighty pretty today. And she was sitting on a chair, and she had like the glow of an angel. It just was beautiful. Yeah. And we kept saying, Mom, I said, Mom, you done had a man up in here? And she was like, girl, you better go down with the church, having a good time at church. And then that next morning, she transitioned. And so it's hard, because we lost our mamas 17 months apart. I couldn't help him grieve, because I was grieving as much as he was, because she was such a part of my life. But I couldn't help him. So when my mama passed, he just kept saying, you need me, you need me, you need me. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I've lost my connection to life. And I was like, I still got my daddy, and I'm glad for that. But it was like the connection I had with my mama. Sometimes I would be going through illnesses in my body, and my son would call my mama, and I couldn't stand up, I couldn't sit down, couldn't lay down. He would call my mama, and my mama would be there so fast, and all she had to do was walk in the house, and that pain would eat.
Everything.
It felt like the world flipped back up on this axis. And now I don't have that. So it's like, okay, God, help me to navigate through this world and be all right. And then I can hear my mama in the background saying, do this, do that. Don't let people ruin who God is for you. My mama always told me that. Don't let, she said, because people got an opinion like they got a butt on. And I was like, I used to didn't understand that till I got really into it. And she was like, they gonna like you one day, they gonna hate you the next day. She was like, you gotta determine who you are, and you gotta fill the room with you. And you can't allow them to make you dumb down because of who you are. Yeah. But don't dominate because you want to. But if who your personality is takes over the room, just know the people in the room don't know who they are. They don't have their identity. And if they don't have their identity and they see you shining, sometimes they're jealous of your anointing.
And also, that's good. That's really good.
And they're jealous of your anointing, so they attack you to stop people from liking you because they don't know how to shine in being who they are. Right. See, when you know who you are, you can walk into a room like, okay, we walked in the roof, Chris. Me and my husband didn't act like we the big shots of Columbia, but we was treated well.
Because I paid for it.
Yeah, but I'm saying we was
paid to be treated well.
But we were still treated well, right?
Yeah.
And we were treated like, okay, y'all coming here. This is an experience you're supposed to have, and this is the experience you can talk about for years, for months, for days, and you can recommend it to other people. Now, we had been to Ruth Chris before, years ago.
Had a good time, too.
And we had a good time, but I didn't enjoy it like I did this time.
Well, because it's because you with me.
Whatever. But last year we went to Chop House, and we were sitting in Greenville looking at the river.
Yeah, that was wonderful because it was the ambiance. It was early. It was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And that's Halls in Columbia. Now you take me to Charleston, then that's where I'm rolling. But my ultimate number one is High Cotton. I know High Cotton is fit to be tied. But when it comes to things about grief, the thing that I need people to understand is that everyone won't go through it the exact same. Someone on here said that they're not able to talk about it yet. And so with that, I would go, then what is your outlet? Are you journaling? Are you writing it down? Are you writing letters? Like, how are you coping and how are you healing? Because some of us, when we get sick, and think about it, when you get sick and you're not feeling well, do you always tell someone, people in your circle, that you're not feeling well? Or do you wait till it gets kind of obviously really, really bad and they see it and like, child, what's wrong with you? And then you say, I ain't feeling well and I'm feeling bad for the last couple of days or weeks, whatever case is. If you're the latter, then you want to be careful that you have a way that you are monitoring and dealing with yourself and that there's someone who can be aware that there's something going on and that you're going through some grief. You may want to then, if you're still not able to talk about it, you probably need to go sit on somebody's couch. I am a strong advocate of going and sitting on somebody's couch and letting them talk you through, or just letting them, someone that, if you got to pay somebody, the beggar on the side of the road, say, I will pay you $25 if you just sit here and let me talk and listen to me talk. And then pour it out. I say that again because you want to start to verbalize how you're feeling, because sometimes we end up saying the quiet part out loud, which is good for us to identify that I am mad with God over what has happened. I am upset. And hear me on this. I have been mad with God several times. He is not anti you being mad with him. He already knows it. He's God. He can handle it. Now, when people go, I cuss God out, I probably wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. But to go, I am angry with you because I did this in your word. I prayed over this person. I ministered to this person. I ministered to other people that when I prayed for them, I didn't believe my prayer went as high as the ceiling or high as the hairs on my head. It came back down to the ground. But you healed and delivered them. Why in this situation, sometimes you have to verbalize and get that out. To say, I expected better of you, God, and you did not perform for me.
Yeah.
You did not come through for me in this area, and I need. We had a conversation. That day at the hospital for your mother, I was like, I went down the hallway, and my dad came and got me, and I was talking to God, like, God, this ain't right. I was like, I'm gonna keep calm through this, cause it's my people, but we gotta talk. And my dad was like, you gotta keep it together, son, cause they need you now. I was like, oh no. It's like I'm cool. Like, cause he was like, if you need me, like, I'm here. I'm like, all right. I was like, but my issue ain't with you, God, with you, Dad. My issue with God. We gotta have some conversations. Like, I need you and Jesus and the Holy Ghost and all four of us to sit down and even though looking back at it now, God's like, that boy real crazy. It was just me giving an honest moment. God is not afraid of your.
There.
Yeah, I'm not staying here. I'm going to lean into the God that I serve because He is life and I need life. Right now, though, life is happening and life is lifing, and I don't like how it's going. And I was like, it was preached to me this. It was preached to me this. It was preached to me this. And your word says this. What is the deal? And He began to open my ears in a way to whereas, like with your mother, because it was like, why didn't you heal her? And one day he went, she has been smoking cigarettes since she was 14 years old. She lived to be 70. You're welcome. He's like, you're welcome. And I was like, because again, I knew of and heard about some people who never smoked cigarettes, but someone they love smoked cigarettes and they ended up with cancer, with the lung cancer, and they passed away. And he went, you're welcome. And with my mother, he's like, you remember your car? Like, he had a way of either telling me a story or setting me up for the you welcome part. And he's like, remember your first car? I was like, I love that car. And all the joy that I remember from getting my first car, it was a 86, 88, 89 Renault Alliance. I had never seen this car on the road. You never will again, because it was a discontinued whatever, and it was my aunt's sister was selling the car that she had it in the yard, whatever, and I'm like, what is this? And it was for me my first car, and it was a fix or repair. I was driving around the road and the brakes went out, just stuff that you experience on a car like that, things you experience with a car like that. With a car like that, the repair on it, I learned how to change alternators, I learned about carburetors, I learned how to do spark plugs and full tune-ups on the car, change the oil, change brakes. I was working on the brake housing system on the car because stuff was going bad. Like, change the radiators. I learned what I can do now on the car is phenomenal because I learned on that car. Eventually, God's like, but why'd you trade it? I said, because eventually it kept breaking down so much that it was no longer reliable. And though I loved the car, it was time to trade it in. I had put too much money in it. I had put too much time and manpower in it. And it was to the point whereas it was getting to be a irreparable situation. And he said, and you traded the car, but you still appreciate it. They'll say, yeah. He's like, that's what your mama did. She traded in her body that was shutting down on her, and she got a better one. I had nothing to say after that.
Jesus.
And this was not immediately after I said, why you took my mama? It was maybe a year later, maybe a year and a half, 6 months to a year and a half later, I was brushing my teeth and we had that quick conversation. And hold on, and after that, it just settled me all the way down. And I'm trying to get you to understand, he has a way of letting you go through the grief process because you have to. It's a part of the natural course of emotions in life. You go through your grief process. Everyone doesn't go through it the same. Everyone doesn't fester it the same. But some things I've learned to be certain and true. You need to acknowledge you're going through grief. You want to go through grief in a healthy way. You also want to be able to have someone you can go talk to that you can get out how you're feeling and what's going on with you and the changes grief is having on you so that you can get that out and get some help. That's another thing. You also want to make sure that you're talking to God about your grief and what you're going through in your prayer time and your personal time. You wanna, even if you get in the house by yourself or get in the car, go somewhere, sit, park the car. I've done that many times. For those of you who've ever seen me sitting in Lowe's, I'll go to Chick-fil-A, get something to eat, and go park in Lowe's and sit in the at the end of the Lowe's parking lot and just sit there, eat my food, and I'm on like I'm on the phone talking.
Wow.
I'm talking to God.
Wow.
Because
That's where I eat that all the time.
I gotta do with you.
That's where I eat it all the time, under them trees.
Why are you shocked? We're one.
Yeah, but I eat under them trees. I go get my food and I make it back to the Lowe's spot to sit there.
So my point goes to like this. Why at Lowe's? Well, one, it's a public spot, so if anything jump out, they got cameras. Two, it's convenient, so I can kind of sit by myself, and if I scream, holler, yell, cry, snot, I don't got somebody parked right next to me looking at me like this. That's it. But it's kind of a quiet spot. It's out away from the masses where I can go, God, and I just have a conversation. And sometimes I do it in my car. Thank God now everybody's used to phones. Because before phones, I would ride in my car, be talking to God, and people look at me at the light like, what's he talking to? And sometimes I just go, or sometimes I'll go, talking, and I let it go. Sometimes I don't say nothing at all. But it's so that you can have these conversations and pour out your heart before the Lord so that over time He will answer. He doesn't always answer right away. Because, and I believe that's part of it because sometimes it's a trust thing. Like it's a trust thing and you getting it out. Watch this. It's like you have the wound and it gets infected. I think grief is like an infection at times. It gets infected. So before we can treat and close it up, the wound, we got to get all the infection out and then see what's going on because you do not want to have to amputate that part of the body where the infection is. You want to be able to treat it, get all the infection out, see that, yep, it's cleared up. Now we're ready to bandage this up and let this heal. Because if you try to heal it and close it up too quickly, the infection will spread back, come back, and now the end is the last of the person is worse than the first. So you want to make sure, I think God takes us through this process so that we start to heal and that we get to a place where, okay, now you're healing right. And that's what I was saying about maybe do it every 6 weeks or so, or maybe every other month, and then maybe have some little, here's a teacher in me, some homework things to do. Maybe you may have to start some journaling, ladies, or if people some journaling, or set up some personal counseling time with the counselor so that you can start to process through what you're going through and track your healing. Because also, what Waylon's learned is, once Waylon came out of that situation of grieving like that, as other family members were passing away and grieving, and family members were grieving, I lost my mother when my best friend lost her mom. I went by the house to talk to them and just to say hello, take some stuff over. My older cousin sat me down and said, okay, Waylon, how do you get through this? And I was like, you're going to have to ask somebody else because I'm still going through mine. What I can tell you is, welcome to the new normal. You're going to get to a place where the day is going to be regular. And I'm going to tell you now, I say you may get to a day where you'll wake up and it's a nice day outside, you feel normal, you get up, you do your regular routine, and then all of a sudden you're going, you're going through your day, and then you go, ooh, let me go call mom or go do whatever I'm gonna do for my mom or do whatever I'm gonna do for this person, whatever. And you get up to go do it and you realize they're not there. When that happens to you, that is a good sign. It's gonna be, the moment's gonna be a little painful, but it's a good sign that you are healing, you're on the right track, and you're starting to get back to where life is feeling good again. That's a sign though that you're healing. You're trusting that, okay, this. I said because, and I gave her the example. I got off work. I was back at Hard Hill teaching. I got off work. I said, ooh, it's about, I'm going to go ahead and work. I'm going to stay here and work till about 3:30. Then I'm going to go pick up mom from work. I stayed at school and did a little bit of work in my room and said, oh, let me go. Got to pick up mom from work. Drove to Fort Jackson. Got to gate 1. And I never take gate 1, but I think they were doing construction on Leesburg Road, so it was closed. So I got to go through gate 1. Got to gate 1 before I realized she ain't there. And I pulled over, and I was like, what is this? And over time, I've learned, okay, that was a good sign that I'm healing. Life is getting to the place where, again, I'm getting my footing again. I'm starting to feel okay. And I was feeling so good that I forgot. And that's okay. And I was like, okay, God. He's like, you're all right. You're not crazy. You're okay. He's like, I'm saying again, you're all right. You're fine. You're not crazy. You're healing. And that's good. And I appreciated that for a little bit of time. I felt good. Because I was going to go see my mom. And he's like, if you live right. And there's a song that says, heaven belongs to you, my brother, if you live right. My sister, if you pray right. Heaven belongs to you. And so that song came to my head. He's like, if you do right, and you move on and you heal, she's in your future. And that's when he started to say, you have to always be careful with grief. And when things happen in life, that you don't get so caught up in your own rejection, your own offenses, or whatever, that you end up losing the person being in your future, because you become the bitter person, you become the resentful person, and it leads you to such darkness and sin that you push me out and push away from me. He's like, how many of my people have done that because their loved one came home to be with me, and because they're not privy to all the insider information of my conversations and my walk with that person. And this is where I've learned to tell people, do not get on your deathbed and tell your family, I'm okay, I'm believing God to pull me back from here. No. If you are believing it is your time to go, tell them. Yes. And that's a hard thing, but if you're feeling like I'm ready to go, tell them. Even if they don't listen, like with my mama, it never registered in my head that she was talking about going home to be with Jesus, because she didn't come out and say, I'm going home to be with Jesus. She's like, I'm going home pretty soon. And I'm like, you ain't never going back to that house. Because I'm equating home with house, 214 American. Like, you ain't never going back there. I'm planning for you to be with us forever. And she kind of looked at me and got quiet. I'm like, and she probably like, that fool ain't listening. Like, he ain't ready.
She kept talking about going home.
She kept talking about going home. She's like, child, I'm going home. She went and made her peace with my father and my stepmom. Like, she was just doing stuff, and I'm like, what is this? She had a seizure on a Monday, was in church on a Friday. We had a Friday evening of worship that the Lord told me to plan to do. And we were at the hospital on a Monday. That Friday, she had her hands up worshiping God. Because I was like, you're going to stay home today, right? She's like, I'm going to church. Like, you're not going. I had no time to argue because I had to go do sound check. So I didn't have time to argue. She came with my wife. And I'm mad and I'm fuming. I'm like, why is she here? She been home resting and But I didn't have time to argue with her because I got to do sound check. And when I'm sitting there, we're worshiping and praising God. The first time my mother has ever seen me be used by God like that was that night. And she's at the altar worshiping. And I'm like, God, thank you. I couldn't even look at her too long because I'm in tears and whatever. My eyes got water with tears. I couldn't see in front of my face. And it was a wonderful thing. Once everything happened a month later, I was like, God, thank you for the moments that I had, because now I see your hand and it was mighty. It's those kinds of things where when you look back over the details, once you have had time to heal and to go back and look back over your life and reflect, I go, okay, now I see why you had her come stay with me. Now I see what you were doing. You were giving me a chance to reconcile and heal some stuff and get myself together because she was getting ready to go. Okay, now I get it, but in the moments, like, I wish you would have told her, brother. But here's my thing. Again, I missed the signs. It wasn't that he and she didn't say. I missed all of the signs. And so now I teach people it's hard, but it is actually an honor when your loved one allows you to have a part in their homegoing process. If so, again, because not everybody gets it. But it's hard because in some cases you've had to watch your loved one kind of become a fraction version of themselves health-wise. their spirit and their soul is still strong, but their body starts to deteriorate, and it's hard sometimes for someone to get those images out of our heads, and it's a thing. But if you can remember, it is an honor to be a part of the process, the transition process. It is an honor. As much as it's going to hurt, it is an honor. Don't miss the moment you have in the season of honoring them one final time because of the anger, the emotional stress that happens. And it's a hard thing to navigate. But again, and if your loved one has gone away quickly, then you got to also remember that the love you should have between each other is not so fragile that one little argument or one misunderstanding is greater and disqualifies all of the years and seasons of love and doing for each other and appreciation and lessons learned that you've gotten over years. Because sometimes when people pass away, you and the loved one have had an argument and you didn't get to fix it before they left, now you're feeling guilty. Let that go. Because love is such where you have to understand the nature of it. That in my love, I may take a hard stance with you. Like when Darius was like 19 and he was living on his own, whatever, and we were like giving him tough love. I was, in the back of my head, I'm like, if that fool does something and kill himself being stupid, it's his choice. And it's hard to say it like that, but that's the way I rationalize it. If Darius passes away and we have just had an argument, I'm hoping that he understands that the demonstration of love that I've shown him all these other years does not negate because we had a disagreement. And before we could get back to reconcile and say, I'm sorry, and we good, we cool again, something happens between him or even me. If I go home and be with the Lord, don't sit there and be like, I'm so told because when they left, we had an argument and I didn't get to say I'm sorry. Don't be trying to put yourself in the casket with somebody because you had a moment of disagreement, as if the moment of disagreement is going to undo all of the years of love and memories you have with the person. Like, I need for us to not let the enemy manipulate us like that. But that's what the enemy does oftentimes. He takes a moment because he doesn't fight fair. He's a snake. He's slimy like that. Yeah. And you gotta understand.
He wants to make you feel.
He wants to make you guilty. He wants to, even in your most vulnerable moments, he will sneak in and try to get a foothold to sit and then stir up stuff because he don't care how you die. He just wants you to die without God. Wow. He wants you to die without fulfilling your purpose. He wants you to make God to be like an open chain with your life. That's what he wants you to do. So therefore, if he can mess you up to that point, that's what he's going to do. And if he makes you feel guilty, he does not care. He will manipulate you and talk you into doing something dumb. And then once you've done it, turn around, look at you, say, look at your stupid self, what you done did. Say, they don't nobody love you. You're an idiot. And it's the whole time you're like, but you told me to do it. And sometimes we got to talk to him. It's like, you the one that told me to do it, condemnation. You told me to go do this, so I did it. And once I did it, now you turn on me, forget you. I'm going back to God. I ain't fooling with you no more. Like, sometimes you got to just be flat-footed and recognize the enemy for what it is. And so that's why, long story long, when you get to a place where you're not able to talk about something at all, you may want to start to write it down and journal it. Even if you journal it, read it, tear it up and throw it in the trash and shred it, you want to start talking about it. Find some kind of way to kind of talk and get this thing out, because it is not healthy for you to hold and not deal, because what's going to happen is that one day something's going to be really, really small and you're going to blow up on someone. You're going to leak like a balloon that's slowly being filled with water or being filled with air. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you're stretched out, and then the next little, you're going to bust. Or if you hit something that's a little bit whatever, you're going to explode and bust, and you're going to bleed out and leak out on other people, and you are not going to be able to control the moment. And that is one way, you know, whenever I've seen a child explode, you know, well, I teach school, y'all may have never seen it. A child just, something small happen and a child just explodes up. Quit looking at me, give me my pencil back. Like, it's just a pencil. you got to discern at that moment if they're that upset over a small pencil, there's something bigger way in play. Or you getting up on that, why are you looking at me? And they just start going off on somebody. There's a lot of bigger issues going on that they're carrying, that they're dealing with. And that small moment is not the thing. You have to pull them out, let them go talk to a counselor, and the counselor will, if they talk to their counselor at school, the counselor will often confirm they're going through a lot of other stuff. So when we give their punishment, we're giving their punishment in lieu of the 20 other things that's going on. Because it would be like, some of my punishments is, well, you and this person gonna sit together, y'all gonna be best for the next week. Until y'all figure out how to get along, y'all gonna eat together at lunch, you gonna play together at recess, you gonna sit together at class and do your work together. And I make that way we do group assignments the entire week. That's just sometimes my punishment. But when the child is in a serious situation and something that's going on and this one kid just triggered a response, then you gotta do something different when it comes to the punishments and that kind of thing. We want you guys we're thankful that we're able to be a help to people. We are grateful that we're able to kind of use what we've been through in life to say, hey, sometimes certain processes are processes. There is no, respectfully speaking, as a son of God who has walked with God more years than I've been in the world unsaved. I got saved at 19. Been hearing God's voice all my life that I can remember hearing anything. And I officially gave my life to the Lord at 19. I'm now 47. So I'm almost 30 years walking with God and 19 years in the world. What I can share with you that is the truth. That most of my walk with God has been processed. And my walk is still processed. There are some miracles that take place. Like a little 4-year-old kid, 3-year-old kid coming in my house and getting adopted. Like I'm still trying to figure out how you did that. That makes no sense to me. And then for her to be a daddy's girl just makes no sense to me. But because I think she think I'm her real daddy. No, like I think anyway.
Oh, now she's doing this when she talks about you.
Yeah. Okay. She was like, she called my name. I tell her that's my name, so I want her to be able to sign my name, because
she's doing it. Like I was like, when you stop doing daddy and start doing Waylon.
I've been teaching her to spell my name. Like this is my name when it comes to like my name. So I guess when she talk to other people, anyway, she's learning my name, what her dad's name is. I've learned that you go through process. Even when you get a miracle, after the miracle happens, you got to process some things through. So God is very much about processing you through different seasons and cycles of life.
And see, Mother said it last night. Sometimes we mess our children up because we tell them they bad. We tell them they ugly. We tell them they're stupid. And it's like God has entrusted us to raise them up in the right way. And so even when they do things that are wrong, it's like we have to reprogram our thinking and our mindset on how to do these things.
Yes.
Even with the Word of God, when something bad happens, some people start cussing, some people start crying, some people get upset and want to tear the house down. And it's like, okay, you tearing up all this stuff, you gonna have to clean it back up, and you're gonna have to buy everything that you done messed up. Is that really necessary that you got to go through that type of thing to get relief of what's going on with you? You hadn't learned a coping skill. Now you have to learn a coping skill. You have to learn how to say, okay, I'm going through this, but I need to learn how to process my thoughts. And see, last night she was helping, Zan was helping people, because she was just like, process what you're going through. This painting, I believe that painting released a lot of people.
Yeah. Yes.
From from a lot of like fear, defeat. I put anger and disappointment.
Yes.
Because I trust people sometimes beyond a fault, and they fail me every time, just about. And I'm like, wait a minute. I can tell you, I don't try to fail people. I don't try to disappoint them. But it seems as if I get disappointed, and then I'm left holding the bag, and I got to clean up what I asked them to help me with.
Okay, go ahead.
So then I'm having to stop. I'm having to look. Am I critically thinking that about everybody? Because it's like it's only a few people I am going to call to help me, because everybody else seems to have been like, give me your booty to kiss.
Right. So in that's good. Couple things I heard. One, I hear people have always let you down.
Mm-hmm.
So there are oftentimes we have the same expectation of others that we have for ourselves, and that's just the natural course of people. Like I would do this, so I think you should be able to do this for me, because I would do this for you, and then some. So what I've had to learn, and what God has taught us in His Word, is you have a certain level of character and integrity. That's really the words that you have. You have character and integrity about who you are, how you would do stuff, how you would help people, because your love walk, your mentality, your character, integrity breeds, I cannot walk past and not meet a need that I can see that I can do. The problem is, though, that we expect that of everybody else.
Yeah.
So what we have to learn as people who are geared toward helping others is we set up, these are the parameters, the criteria for you to get help in. Like you said earlier, when you're talking about knowing your limitations. I know me, and my heart is very much for single parent mothers, because mine was one and I was a son of one. So if you are a woman with a son, automatically I want to come to the rescue and help. What I've learned is everybody don't rock the way Waylon rocks. So I have to learn that this is what I'm willing to do for you. And I do this with most adults. I do this with children, such to like. This is what I'm willing to do, but you're going to have to meet certain requirements, in the sense that this is what I'm offering if you take advantage of it. Case in point, something very simple. Kids took a test. They did bad on the test. Okay, I'll give you a retake next Friday. However, I'm going to count both quizzes, but I'll give you a chance to make corrections and get points, partial points back on your assignment. But you got one day to do. You got to turn it in to me by Wednesday. It was Tuesday, got to turn it in to me by Wednesday, because we got quiz Friday. I want to prep you for the quiz, and here's the deadline. I'm doing you a favor. So all the students that turned in their work, their corrections Wednesday for homework, got their points added. Those that want to give it to me Thursday or Friday, I'm sorry, you got to take this back. You don't qualify, because there's limitations to stuff. And it's not that I would not help you. I gave you opportunity. You just didn't meet the requirements. In that, you have to hold people accountable for what they do. And that is what it is. Because again, if you're like another young man that we were trying to help, I was like, if you're honest with me, be upfront with me, don't try to steal and take from me, I got you. But the moment you start stealing and taking and being dishonest, you can ask my son. Anytime I've helped people, he can tell you, when you start acting flaky with my daddy, I can't rock with you. Be honest, be upfront. Don't steal from me. Don't take from my people. Don't do that, because then I can't trust you in that regard. And if you're going to take from me, then you're not ready for the help that we're offering, because this is the first level. There are other levels to this. And I'm not going to do for you in a way and sacrifice for you in a way if you have not shown a level of integrity and character, because this is your start over. In spite of what everybody else has said about you, I hear what they said, and I'm going to assume that everything they said about you is exactly true. And I'm going to try to help you anyway. Mm-hmm. That's how I do. So again, it's the point of making sure that you say, okay, can you help me do this? Like if you're doing an event, then there are certain people that I will go, can you help me in this event? And then they say, yes, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Can you have this to me by this time? And if they are able to do that, or let's say something happens, say I can't get it there. Like if I say, can you have your decorations there the day before? And something happened with this one person. They had a tragedy in their family, and they came in. They were trying to do their job because they were a person of character, and we could see you need to go home. Like it's not in you to do it. Thank you, appreciate you. That I love, because in that I will use that person again because their character, their integrity shone through, even though they were not able to. If they would have called and said, I know I promised you this, but right now I'm going through this. I am not in any kind of a mental state to do anything. How can I help you a little bit? I can give you some this, whatever, some that, and if y'all can set up whatever, I'll just come and collect it later, but I am not in the right headspace. I can give you all your money back. Like, whatever the case is. People like that I can work with. When you're a person that says one thing and you do something else, or you fall short and you miss my deadline because I have deadlines, then I'm not going to work with you again, and you disqualify yourself because, again, you're not meeting what I need as requirements to move to the next level. And it's not no love lost. It's just that I know I can't. You're not at a certain level of integrity and character that I can rock with you. Yeah. And we have to learn to give people the chance to show us who they are in that season. The snapshot of the picture. Talked about that last week. Here's a snapshot of who you are. So in this moment, this is who you are. And this is what you have displayed before me. And I'm choosing, I can't rock with you while you do this. If you get it together, and if there's some kind of way down the road, you can show that you are a different person of a different kind of character and different kind of integrity now, maybe I'll give you a small chance to start over. But understand, you have lost the cool points. You now have 0 cool points with me. If we can use cool points as that. So now, because you have 0 cool points, you got to start from scratch. You don't get the, if you had 100 cool points and you spent all your 100 cool points doing dumb stuff, and now you're at 0 with me, you don't get to come back, man, can you forgive what I did? I forgive you, no problem. It's all love, I love you. All right, great. You don't come back to 100. You start back at 0. And you begin to build yourself back up based on your character, your integrity, you being a person of your word. Now, when I say, hey, can you take the trash out for me? If you take an hour to take trash out, or you like, all right, I got you, and then you go do something else, and then like, I'm gonna get to it, that to me speaks, I ain't priority for you. You not ready. You still at 0. But if you start to do certain things and come around and say, hey, you know what? Even sometimes a gesture of, I was thinking about you the other day. I really appreciate the thing you did for me. Here's $5, or here's a gift card, or here's, I know you love Mr. Pibb, so here's a Mr. Pibb. I got you a Mr. Pibb, whatever. It's just sometimes a small gesture touches a person's heart because they start to see you changing a little bit.
Yeah, and that's and to give props to Aries. When he got cool points with me. Yeah. Because what he did, I was like, what? But it was thoughtful. It was the thought behind the thing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Share what he did.
When he did the sun tea and he decorated the bottle, he was excited about the event, even though he wasn't going to attend the event. He even came in to help me do some things.
Right. It was only for the ladies.
Yeah. He was excited. He was like, oh, I can help you do this, and this. And I was like, I appreciate that, because he always shows great appreciation for whatever you do for him. Or if he's gonna do it for you, it's a 100% effort that he does. Yeah. And even though sometimes he may get it wrong, he still keeps trying. He keeps doing things, and I'm like, I appreciate that, because of the simple fact he shows I see value in you, and I'm going to value you, and I like the fact that he can, he does it sometimes at the drop of a dime, and he's like, wow, this is awesome to be that young, to be 25 and still got it. He was like, I got old, just turned 25, September 1st. Old soul. Old soul, because he was raised by his grandma.
Okay, yeah,
So,
okay.
you know, old soul, and I love the fact that
He'll grow out of that. I was old too when I was 25.
People showed up last night. They had to push themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like I wasn't gonna come. You know, somebody told me, said, you know, I ain't coming because the rain. It's raining, and the liner in my vehicle falls out, and I don't want to, you know. And I was like, wow. And then I just prayed, and I prayed silently, and I didn't get upset, and they showed up. And I was like, thank you, Jesus, because I was like, this is an effort. I wanted to pull great people together that have awesome hearts and that do for others so much. And that's why I did not charge anybody anything last night. I was like, because, you know, it's a cost to have the people to come. And then some of them thought about it, and as they were walking out the door, they were stuffing money in my hand. Was like, oh, you didn't take up an offering. I said, I sure did, and I forgot. I thought I would. I should have.
No, let's stop. Can we stop that?
No. They were saying that they wanted to pay.
No. I know. I understand that. Reach Church.
But I wasn't going to take. I was like, you could drop it in the basket at any time.
Reach Church. Now, I can't do nothing about what the Lord's laid on your heart to do, except for the doctor who tried to give us our love offering back. That's all. But that's a whole 40-minute conversation too. But what often gets on my nerve is the house of God sometimes acts as if this event costs, so let's help with some of the costs and get in your pocket, give a love offering. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and the and so sometimes it deals in the mentality of people as we start doing stuff. I like being able to put on an event and say, Lord, this is our seed that we sow into people as you have blessed us. I was telling the person last night, I was like, our church is called Reach for a reason, because our goal is to help people reach their fullest potential in Christ, for them to attain to, where we got over here, to achieve, to attain, to complete, to extend, finish, grasp, and influence. That's what reach, the word reach, can mean in all those different situations. So we want to be a resource and sow seed to help you realize your talents, abilities, your skills, all of those things that God has put in you is for you to use so that you can reach your fullest potential in Christ. That's why we're Reach. So when God has blessed us real well, we're not so focused on building the biggest sanctuary or the nice big sanctuary. Not that I'm not anti that. So don't look at me like, well, you said you don't care about it. And it's not the main focus. The main focus is building the people. If you build the people, then the people will build whatever things need to happen for the ministry. And I say it just like that. The focus is building people, helping people heal, helping people go forward. So we sow seeds regularly. We do things to try to help people, and we don't try to come back and take an offering up, because oftentimes the religiousness of us come in and say, ooh, let me sow something. No, receive. Come in and receive, and not feel like you got to leave a tip in an exchange. Just receive and go home and say, God, I thank you for what you poured into me today. And then when you go to your next, when it's your turn to sow into someone else, you sow and don't look for anything immediately back in return. Everything that happened, I was like, God is good. God is wonderful. The event that my wife put on was financed by the ministry or home. Well, the ministry has financed that out.
The ministry
give me your receipts. The ministry got it because this is what we do. And now if she decided that she wanted to do something else out of her pocket because it was her thing, that's between her and Jesus. But give me your receipts. Ministry got you. Because it's important. And doing things like this helps the ministry to say, okay, this is what we're bringing in. This is how we budget. So God, this is what we're doing. Sometimes I've seen in the past where people, ministries, and such alike, we kind of do and stretch ourselves too wide, and then all of a sudden, we
gotta tax the people, or beat the people up because y'all ain't giving in an offering.
Instead of altering what you are able to do.
And see, when I was talking to the painter last night, she was like, Did you get your money back from the people? I said, oh no, sweetie. I said, I believe in this. If I invite you to come somewhere, I'm gonna pay that up front because I don't want you coming and wasting your time.
Yes.
And because if I invited specifically 15 people or more. I invited about 20. And all 15 that was supposed to be here was here. And my baby girl, she was like, I ain't going nowhere. When she got here, she saw we was getting ready to paint. She was like, so I was like, okay, it's paid for you by your mama. You can, you good. So my thing was, I said, I want you to have your money because I want you to have effort. And then I gave her an offering too. And she was like, I gave her a thank you card. She was like, oh, just throw it over there. I said, now, it's something in there for you. She was like, oh, okay. She was like, additional? I was like, yeah, because you're taking your time, your effort, and your talent. And we always believe in, if you're gonna have somebody do something for you, pay them for what you pay. And now lately, I've been using different things for the desserts because I know the girls have been busy and they were going out of town this weekend. And that's why I used my little Walmart deal. But if the girls was going to be here, I'd been like, y'all go for what you know. Because when I talked to them, they said, we're going out of town for the weekend. And I was like, oh, I don't want to put that burden on them.
Yeah. But that's a good thing of, again, not overextending yourself. I'm not going to be able to be here. So it's going to be what it is. I believe, like, if you go on a vacation and was it like a year that we were trying to come back from vacation and the car went bad? Something happened with
St. Augustine?
Yeah, something happened with the AC or something, whatever.
The AC went out in the van.
Right.
And they couldn't get the part.
Couldn't get the part right, whatever. And so we had to stay over one more extra day. It was, all right, we stayed another extra day, but like, all right, who got money to take care of whatever? And we got to pull some things together to get us through because there was an unexpected expense. And even the company that we rented the van from, you know, we're sorry, and they kind of took care of their bill on their end for their vehicle, things like that, and even gave us opportunity to use them again. We just never did go on a vacation like that. But it's you having to say, okay, based on what we have, this is what we can do. And I think it
speaks a lot to.
Well, no. I think it's becoming a ministry, or it's important that ministries learn that this may be the budget, but then like inflation happens. The event, that place you wanted to have last time was $300, but now, you know, they've become so popular because when we blast places, they become popular and they're booked up, and so now they go, oh, okay, well, so our building is really worth $1,000 instead of $300. Okay, then, well, then, boom, it's $1,000 this year. But last year it was only $300. It's $1,000. Okay, well, we can afford that. And then you roll on with what you can afford, what you can do.
What you can.
Because sometimes if you can afford it, then okay, you look at your budget and what you have, and you work within that. Or then, you know, like some people do, they pull some coupons and some deals. You have to do those things in life. But I love to be able to bless the people of God and saying the ministry has taken care of this. And you don't have to worry about coming with some money in your pocket to sow a seed and give whatever. Because some people they see what is lavished upon them, and then they feel obligated, and it's their last 15, 20, 30, and then they want to give all that because it costs money, and then they go without. Don't do that.
And then I think Mary Balknight, I want to give her awesome shout out. Wonderful. She called me at the last minute. She said, I want to bless ladies with some things that I had just in my house. And she said, brand new stuff. She said, can you get them out as prizes for the ladies? And I was like, awesome, because I had brought little bags and put some little candies in just for a thank you.
Yeah.
And with her coming, and it was an air fryer, it was a coffee maker, it was a slicer, and it was something else. It was great gifts.
Yeah.
And And then we, you know, I played the numbers game, and I was like, I put a number in my head, and I told you to get in between. Now someone was like, they kept going around the number. I'm like, why y'all? How y'all kept going to 34, 36? They kept going to 36, 35, 31, and Nicole was stuck on 41. 41? Yeah, 41. I was like, why you stuck on 41? But it turned out some people was like, this is what I was wanting. I had one of my clients, she was like, my air fryer just went out, and oh my God, I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And it was just like,
nice air fryer.
Yeah, it was ooh, yeah, that was awesome. That might cook a whole chicken bounce. No, it had a big basket in it. No, it was a caster. It was really nice.
Yeah. Now,
and
so
I'm thankful for you, Angie, because you always do above and beyond. And you know, you're an awesome person. I love the fact that you are such a giver and you have such a great heart.
I need to see you in the building more.
Yeah, I asked her, but you know, like sometimes you just have to keep real.
I know. Angie,
but we love you and we thank God for your whole family. We pray blessings on your family. I just thank God for every woman that showed up. And the ones that didn't show up. Next time I want you here in the building. And we're going to try to do different things. We're not going to stick to this one thing. We're going to try to do different things. And we're going to do like coping building skills to teach us how to navigate without getting
anger management.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily cope anger management, but sometimes we had a young lady that came and she said she got frustrated because she was like, I couldn't find nothing to wear, but she still came, and she was like, I don't usually get out the house, so I was able to get out the house.
Yeah, like.
And she seemed more calmer.
Oh, that's good. That's
good. And it seems like, and then like Dr. Smith was saying, she said this painting calms you. This painting brings you, it gives you a clarity of what's in your mind. And someone said, she was like, it brought a lot of things into perspective by us sitting here doing this exercise. I love to paint, and I brought me and Monet these sketching pads, and me and Monet sit up and we make pictures. Yeah. And she be getting mad because she can't make a picture like me.
But you know though, I didn't know you were as. I know you're creative, and you're artistic, but I didn't know you could draw the way you can. I didn't know because it's not like you until you started doing the sketches. I was like, oh, she can really draw. Like I did not. Exactly, because it's not something that you can look at someone and go, oh, you're an art, you can draw, because you don't do it. But she was like, your illustration skills of coloring is not foreign because you know people who are really great at coloring and putting colors together, they dress well. You know that's passion is kind of your thing. So that's not the issue. That wasn't a shock. I'm like, oh, she can really draw though. Even with Monet, like Monet can draw.
Oh yeah, Monet.
Like she's good. She's a good artist. Like, oh, she can draw.
Cause she got frustrated with the bird last night, just made her dog or whatever that
right.
But it was cute. It's cute.
Right. But it's a thing of learning to also handle things when it doesn't go your way. Yeah. Because she would play a game when she was doing something. She was getting mad and she don't want to take and destroy stuff. And when she was 3 and 4, she would destroy stuff because it couldn't come out the way she wanted it. And she'll want to beat us. Like, no, she has to learn how to handle it when things don't go your way. Like toys and playing and art and those kind of things are very, very helpful because they help you be able to cope and to manage and learn lessons. So what has happened for a lot of people, we're going to close after this, is coloring books have come back in a strong way over years. Yeah. And they have adult coloring books because as educators, we know that children who deal in anger, you give them crayons and something to color and say, sit here, color. And you don't just make them sit and stew in what they're doing. Make them sit and then color something because the coloring allows them to calm down. It calms them.
It releases
Right,
endorphins.
right. It changes the mood. So how does that work with the middle school teacher is sometimes when kids get angry or upset, I pull them to a corner like, all right, you know what? You got to color this. And if you don't color, you got detention. And they go, what? Color it, you got detention. And so, or get detention. And most of them like, I don't want detention. And then they'll start coloring. Because the idea is to get them doing the activity. And once they get into the activity and they color it, it's like, and it needs to look decent. So it makes them focus and look decent. So then it's like, okay, now bring it to me. And in the class, they'll bring it to me. I was like, okay, now what was wrong with you? And then we can talk, have a conversation. And 9 times out of 10, they're calm. Or they're still upset about it, but they're calmer. They're not in a rage, and they can talk about what's going on. So with adults, it becomes the same thing. So all these things of the adult ADHD and all this other stuff that I had never heard of from my mother's generation, because I didn't know there was such a thing. We thought somebody was either you're normal or you're a little touched. That's all we call it. But now people have these different things, and so like in workplaces, they have workplace IEPs and these things for adults who have these different mechanisms going on, and they have to learn coping things, and certain companies will send them to sessions and professional developments that's geared towards where they have issues at, so they can learn how to talk to their co-workers, so they can learn how to work together as a team, so they can learn how to better communicate and do what they need to do, so that they don't keep displaying all these negative behaviors, lose their job, get fired, and then come out with their gun and shoot up the place. Like, companies are doing things insurance because it helps people. Because some of the people who end up doing these things that we call crazy, and they go, you know, they had these psychiatric things going on, is that sometimes it's just they have a really horrible coping mechanism and they don't know how to deal. So we hope something was shared with you that was helpful, that was a blessing. We'll see y'all Tuesday, and we'll get into the word Tuesday, where we are studying the book of Ephesians. So go and be reading Ephesians, and we can talk about it in the chats and all that good stuff, what insights on it. Right now we're still in chapter 1, so we're going to kind of do a deep dive into chapter 1. So also, when you read the book of Ephesians, also go and read the book of Acts, where it talks about Paul's journey at Ephesus and what was going on with him when he first went. So you can get a nice background of what was going on. Also, you may want to look at Timothy and Titus, those epistles as well, because he's writing to them and they're kind of tied in together. So y'all go and the Lord be blessed. And God bless you. Y'all have a great, wonderful day.
You too. Love y'all.
Like y'all.